And I believe in love.
Then I will destroy you!
They do not deserve your protection!
It's not about deserve. It's about what you believe.
I will destroy you!
To be fair to Wonder Woman, it is one of the better DCEU films. Yeah, the bar isn't very high, but it is one of the better films regardless. Probably in the top 2. Unfortunately, still, this movie is yet another DCEU entry that fails to reach the level of quality where a character like Wonder Woman deserves to be. And what makes the whole situation even more frustrating is that this failure comes down to just one decision. One single decision most likely made by the studio of Warner Brothers that ended up ruining the ending act of this film. I might be targeting this video at Wonder Woman, but in reality I might as well be talking about the whole DCEU in general, because this one decision that Warner Brothers made with Wonder Woman, it has also made with pretty much all other films, excluding only Man of Steel. And maybe Aquaman as well, I can't say, I haven't seen it. The reason I am targeting the video at Wonder Woman is because this is the movie that arguably had the most potential. It does so many great things with its setups and build-up, only to have it all crumble down at the very end. That one studio decision that I'm talking about, you've probably already guessed it. It's the decision to bring in an undeveloped, uncharacterized CGI monstrosity to be the ultimate third act main villain. Wonder Woman does feature interesting human villains, but they are all tossed aside to make room for a larger-than-life supernatural being. Only this time it's not a witch or a monster or that one thing we don't talk about. This time it's Ares, the hella-lit Greek god of war, because Greek gods obviously are what DC is best known for. At this point, most likely you've already heard tons of complaints about Ares from other fans. The CGI is not good, the dialogue is not good, and so on. And those complaints aren't incorrect. But as I've said before, the main problems in cases like this most often exist at a more deeper level. A movie with bad CGI can still work. A movie with bad dialogue can still work. And so, in my eyes, there are two main problems with the ending of Wonder Woman. Two core storytelling problems that ruin a big part of the setups and build-up that the movie has done before. And so, here we are, fellas and fellarettes. Let's take a look at 2017's Wonder Woman and try to find out what these two core problems with the movie's ending are. And once we've identified the problems, maybe we can then find a way to reshape the ending into a form where it doesn't ruin what this film so clearly tries to build itself up to be. The downside with the character of Wonder Woman Diana Prince is that much like Superman, she's very overpowered. And to overcome this downside, the movie makes the right choice of building itself on Diana's internal conflict over her external conflict. And in case you're not familiar with those terms, it's like this. External conflict means a character's physical struggle against a real, tangible obstacle. In this movie, the external conflict is whether or not Diana can stop the Germans and end the war. The issue is, there are no real stakes with this. Based on the opening, we already know that the Germans get stopped. We already know that Diana survives. There are some stakes with the people around Diana and whether or not she can save them, yes, but directly with her, not really. So, the real stakes of the movie are built on the internal conflict, aka Diana's inner struggle with her own beliefs versus the movie's theme. The theme of Wonder Woman is that there are no simple logical answers when it comes to humanity's capability of being evil. Some people are good, some people are bad, some people are both. That's just the way it is. Diana, however, strongly believes that all people are good, that they're just being corrupted by this mysterious god of war called Ares. And so, the stakes of the film revolve around the question of whether or not Diana can overcome her inner conflict and accept humankind as what it is. And based on the cold way she behaves in Batman v Superman, coupled with her opening voiceover here, there's a real possibility that she doesn't.
I used to want to save the world, this beautiful place. But I knew so little then. The closer you get, the more you see the great darkness simmering within. I learned this the hard way. And now, I will never be the same.
Throughout the movie, Diana tries to make sense of all the death and suffering she witnesses by labeling it as the work of Ares. That this is Ares, it's Ares, she can make all of it stop if she just kills Ares. This ultimately leads to a climactic scene that is easily one of the best scenes in the entire DCEU. She kills the person she believes to be Ares, and then nothing happens. Evil continues to exist. Now, because it's finally clear to Diana that there are no easy answers, her world and beliefs are turned upside down. Her internal conflict starts to become too much for her to overcome, and there's a big chance that she cannot overcome it. That maybe she should just give up. Maybe mankind doesn't deserve the help of Wonder Woman after all.
Ares is dead. They can stop fighting now. Why are they still fighting?
That's because maybe it's them. Maybe people aren't always good.
No, it had to be him. It cannot be them.
Diana, people.
She was right. My mother was right. She said the world of men do not deserve you. They don't deserve our help, Steve.
It's not about deserve. It's not.
Then, after all this time building up Diana's inner conflict and forcing her to make that one final choice, the film out of nowhere decides to drop the whole thing and lets her off the hook. It switches out the internal conflict in favor of external conflict. It introduces Ares as real. Just like that, Diana is given an easy way out. She can clearly see that, yeah, she was right, Ares is real after all. And as a result, she no longer has to confront her inner beliefs. She no longer has to make that one tough choice. All she has to do is defeat this physical external obstacle. AKA, she beats Ares up in a massive green screen battle, and then all the Germans stop fighting, and then the war ends. Nice. On top of that, the movie doesn't even truly go all in on its decision, but instead tries to have it both ways. Even though Ares is real, he's not actually behind the evil of humanity. He doesn't tell people to be bad, he just gives them the tools to be bad. But by having it both ways, the film only ends up muddling everything. If the theme of your movie is about the discrepancy and irrationality of evil in the human race, then maybe don't give your hero a non-human truly evil villain who wants only death and destruction. Instead, maybe give your hero an evil human villain that forces them to accept that mankind is both good and evil. Force Diana to realize that the reason Wonder Woman is needed is so that she can protect the good people from the bad people. I understand that we need a big action-heavy set-piece spectacle at the end, of course, but there has to be another way to do it, because you simply cannot feature spectacle at the cost of character. Or you can, but then we just end up with more stuff like this.
Mankind did this, not me. They are ugly, filled with hatred, weak. Just like your Captain Trevor. Pathetic.
Sacrifices his own life to prove that humanity can be good. Acts like this sacrifice proves that humanity cannot be good.
The second core problem with Wonder Woman is the decision to feature two separate sets of villains. The first 70% of the movie consists of human villains. We have the German general and we have the female doctor. And to the movie's credit, the doctor is a good villain, or at least a start of a good villain. There's a lot of intriguing mystery around her and whatever happened to her that made her who she is. Plus, the actress playing her does do a great job with her eyes alone, to the point where you could call her female Tom Hardy.
But the mask won't help.
They don't know that.
Unfortunately, a start of a good villain is all she ultimately ends up being, because for the last 30%, the movie decides to toss her aside to make room for the CGI monstrosity that is Ares. The problem with Ares isn't that he's bad CGI or that he has bad dialogue. Those aren't problems as much as they are symptoms. The core problem with Ares, and the reason behind all the symptoms, is that he has no character development. And when I say he has no character development, I mean we know absolutely nothing about him, and then he just pops in at the very end to be the final boss. The reason we even know that Ares is a thing is because of generic exposition delivered by other characters. Sound familiar?
Ares killed them, one by one, until only Zeus himself remained.
They called him Steppenwolf, the end of worlds. Millions fell before his blade.
Zeus used the last of his power to stop Ares.
Even the gods themselves all acted as one. laying down their lives to drive Steppenwolf away.
But Zeus knew that one day Ares might return to finish his mission.
He swore our alliance would crumble and that he would return when it did.
I understand the decision to keep Ares hidden. This story does heavily revolve around the possibility that Ares isn't real, so obviously you can't just reveal him early on. But that doesn't mean you can't develop him, you just have to find another way to do so. And here, that way is through David Thewlis, who turns out to be Ares in disguise. In other words, you develop Ares by developing David Thewlis. For example, you have Diana learn some tragic information about David Thewlis' past, something about him being betrayed by his family or whatever. The details don't really matter, as long as he expresses real emotions that can be understood. Then, at the end, when Thewlis reveals himself as Ares, the audience realizes that his backstory is actually the backstory of Ares. And just like that, this CGI god monstrosity feels human, because he was developed as human. And since he now has been developed as human, he probably will have better things to say than just, "I will destroy you." Whoever the villain of your movie is, you have to develop them in a way that makes the audience understand who they are. As I said in my perfect villain video, the audience doesn't have to agree with the villain's motivation, but they do have to understand it. And so what you can't do is use one set of villains for build-up and then use an entirely other villain for payoff. If you want the female doctor to be your villain, then give her a proper payoff. If you want the god of war to be your villain, then give him a proper setup. The biggest issue with Warner Bros. And CGI is that they seem to think that properly developed villains and CGI monstrosities are interchangeable. That if your villain is a superpowered supernatural being made of CGI, then you don't have to develop them. And I'm not so sure about that. Say what you want about Zod, at least up until Justice League, he's still the only DCEU main villain that has remained consistent and clearly understandable from beginning to end.
I exist only to protect Krypton, and every action I take is for the greater good of my people.
Mankind stole this world from us. They ruined it day by day. And I, the only one wise enough to see it,
Krypton
wants to destroy the Earth to ensure the survival of his own race. Wants humans to destroy each other and the Earth because he's mad that humans are destructive beings who destroy the Earth. Also destroyed his own race and possibly even made humans be destructive in the first place. Does bad things because is a big bad CGI monstrosity.
Once again, Wonder Woman isn't a bad movie. It's a good movie that falls victim to a bad third act. And that's what makes the whole situation so frustrating. All you have to do to fix this movie and make it work from beginning to end is one single thing. Take Ares and throw him out the movie. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's all you had to do. Firstly, by taking out Ares, you're forcing Diana to overcome her tough inner conflict. Since there now is no big CGI external conflict monstrosity that she can just start beating up, she has to find some other way to accept the fact that evil in humanity is illogical and unpredictable. Maybe now, when Steve Trevor sacrifices himself to show that humans can be also good, it actually thematically makes sense. Maybe now the theme throughout the whole movie in general makes sense. Secondly, now that Ares is gone, you don't have to toss away the Doctor. Instead, you can develop the Doctor further and actually properly pay her off by using her in place of Ares as the new ultimate third act main villain. And by using her as the main villain, now you actually have an external threat that complements Diana's internal conflict. After Diana kills off the German general and sees that other people like the Doctor are still evil, she finally realizes the hard truth. Some people are bad, some people are good. And the reason humanity needs Wonder Woman is so that she can protect the good from the bad. Plus, since this movie is about female empowerment, it would make sense to use a woman as the main villain. Since by using a woman as the main villain, you show that women aren't restricted to only being these goody two-shoes, but that they can also be badass bad guys. The one issue brought up by getting rid of Ares is that now there's no superpowered bad guy for Diana to fight. Except there is, by using that superpower gas or whatever developed by the Doctor. In the current version of the movie, the General does use the gas for a little bit, but mostly it's there just to serve as a distraction so that we don't guess who the real Ares is. Well, maybe the Doctor has a stronger version of this gas that makes her a real physical threat to Diana. This way, instead of mostly being there as a distraction, the gas actually serves a proper story purpose. And if you think that a special superpower gas is dumb, fine. But really, is it that much dumber than fighting the literal god of war? If using Ares in the movie is a must, then do it. But at least make Ares be the doctor instead of this random side character we barely see at all. This way, when you develop the doctor, you develop Ares at the same time. Honestly, it could work as well, as long as you don't reveal her as Ares until after Diana has overcome her inner conflict, so that Diana doesn't have an easy way out. And that's it. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it.